Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome, my dear friends, to our Drsya class of today. We begin on verse 22 on the ebook. Which page is this? 46. At the very bottom, we begin there. But let's read the English translation of the verse. Being indifferent to both name and form and devoted to the truth, one should always practice meditation, both in the heart and outside. So it's quite a subtle statement, because we are invited to live in the world, not to try to remove the world, not to escape from the world, not to go into nirvikalpa samadhi, but yet, and we know that the world is nothing but name and form, namarupas, and we are all the time contacting namarupas all over. Its experiences, just consciousness, reflect consciousness in contact with a variety of namarupas. It says we need to be indifferent to namarupas. So let them show up, but we need to be indifferent. And we need to hold on or to be devoted to the truth. So yet we are also invited not to escape the world, not to avoid the namarupas, not to avoid interacting and living in this world, which is a school, as we know, with great potential for learning and growing and developing. It says only that try to be indifferent to all names and forms, all configurations, all objects, and hold on to the truth. So what is the truth? The truth, of course, is all is only and only Brahman. All is only Satchitananda. Names and forms are just appearance, superimpositions, as we know. So be indifferent to those. One should always practice meditation. So we can practice meditation because fundamentally meditation in Vedanta and according to the Upanishads is not just trying to create an empty mind or no mind or thought-free mind, but it's more like thinking, controlling the mind to the extent that it can think in the lines of the Upanishadic scriptures or assertions or determinations. So when we start seeing, contemplating, seeing, thinking in harmony with these revelations, and then we are gradually transformed because we are seeing the world and from this perspective of these teachings rather than seeing the world from the perspective of my vasanas, which is mostly based on total ignorance in respect to the true nature of everything, the self included, of course, this Brahman. So we are said to practice this meditation. So we can do it in any way. We can do it walking on the beach. We can do it doing our works, as long as we hold this background processing, with the ability to see that all name and forms, all variety of object is just a projection in Brahman. Fundamentally, it's all Brahman, it's all display of Maya. So this meditation should be practiced at all times, internally and externally, in the heart, or outside, as we need to live in the world and interact with the world. So how are we going to meditate inside? Inside in the heart is you can just withdraw your sense organs from the world, and then very, very quietly you start contemplating on the teachings. And we're going to understand better through reading through the exposition of Swami Paramarthananda what is the purpose of this meditation, this internal meditation, which involves to take a certain time exclusively for doing my internal quiet nididhyāsanam, which has a great potential. So I tend not to prescribe that, but I realize that it may be a mistake from my side, because I haven't done that, but I have done a lot. I have done a lot of this internal meditation because I was already in contact with this direct knowledge. All there is consciousness, and you are consciousness. So I know that since decades. I knew it much before this realization took place. So I knew that, but yet I used to meditate in the sense of trying to create a peaceful state of mind in which I could feel the self or experience the self and things more on those lines, because I was confused. I was still following those pointers of Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ramana Maharaj, which was presenting somehow this freedom, this Brahman, this God, objectively as something other than myself, as a state, as Ramana, especially Nisargadatta, used to put, okay, the absolute state. So I did so much of that came to a point that I say, no, it's not the way. I mean, everything that I gain through these sittings it fades the moment that I begin interacting with the world. So I got frustrated, and then I got a small booklet that was pointing out the difference between knowledge and silence, the experience of silence. Let's put it that way: knowledge and the experience of silence. Silence is a great symbol of Brahman. So I overreacted, and I said, so I will never meditate again. And somehow over these past several years, I never prescribed this quiet meditation to anybody, because I became a fanatic of knowledge is everything, and you don't need to meditate. Although Nisargadatta Maharaj also used to say, everything is knowledge, understanding is all, and but yet you must sit and meditate, you must go into samādhi. He used to give those two prescriptions, So knowledge is everything, but yet you must meditate, you must go into samādhi. So I think I need to revise my fanaticism or my overreaction against people who sit to meditate, although I'm still a little bit allergic about sitting, creating a space to sit and meditate, but it may be a wonderful tool for those people, for those individuals that have been in Vedanta for so long, and yet it's not, the teaching is not fully internalized, the process, or digest, it did not transform one's life's experience, you understand? So in that case, we must consider that that meditation, taking time aside exclusively for that, knowing that you are not trying to produce anything that you are not yet, you are not trying to produce nirvikalpa samādhi or any kind of mental state. You are just doing that so that you can internalize, you can claim, what the scripture is saying, so that when we say all is Brahman, and I say, and I am Brahman as well, we replace the word Brahman for I myself. So it's more like claiming. Like Dayananda once said that finally enough, the sadhanas, they all reduced to one single thing. It's claiming, 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 claiming. Because we have learned, we have studied, we have contemplate. Now nididhyāsanam is claiming, claiming. It has to be the duality. The duality, I and Brahman, should collapse, so that rather than seeing Brahman, I see I myself am the only reality. I, Brahman, I myself. So that's something interesting. And I had some fantasies when I came to Brazil, because I had some following here. I said, so who knows, maybe we get a little thing going, and people could come more often, and then we could have also sessions for other practice rather than just Vedanta class, because people get tired with Vedanta class. You see, in the very ashrams of Dayananda, they do one or two classes, I believe, a day of 50 minutes. The rest of the day, there is all kinds of spiritual activities, including meditation, and kirtans and bhajans and hatha yoga and many more. You understand? So I think it's part of the journey of preparing, development of qualifications and so on. But anyhow, this is something on my personal side. Let's see what Swami Paramarthananda says about this meditation. You have something to say, Mark? Mark had a smile on his face.
No, not really, Alice. No, I was just appreciating what you were saying. Yeah.
Okay. So, as we have seen in the previous verse, up to the 21st, the author here was very much focused on the topic of samsara and the solution or the remedy of samsara. So the cause of samsara is satya mithya aviveka. So to put it in a very, very concise, simple way, because we cannot see, we don't even know, most people, that there is something called or referred to as the reality, which is free, and the other side, which is phenomenal. So all phenomenal objects are mithya. So if we cannot have the knowledge and the subtlety of intellect to discriminate such a mithya, and then I am in samsara. Why? Because I'm not seeing the difference. I'm getting caught up with some namarupas, names and form, and I want to consume them, hoping that I will be fine after consuming a lot of namarupas. So this aviveka is the cause of samsara. And the remedy is what? The remedy is always knowledge, is the ability to discriminate satya from mithya. So satya mithya viveka, the problem, and the remedy is satya mithya viveka. But this is at the very late stage, I would say. I often like to put it in those terms. The very late stage of this Vedantic process, as we know, before we stick only to satya mithya viveka, which is the remedy for samsara, we have some other primary remedies, and which is, let's say, Ishwara knowledge or dharma adharma aviveka, have to be replaced by dharma adharma knowledge, and karma as well, the laws, sustaining the field, so that I can live in harmony and understanding that there is a structure called dharma, and observing and respecting this structure, so that I gradually develop a scientific mind. So samsara problem begins with dharma adharma aviveka, and more than that is a total exclusion of Ishwara, the creator, and then we are in the samsara, we are in the samsara big time, we are totally immersed in samsara and we suffer. So once we start taking care of this ignorance, and we're going to bring in the Ishvara. We will understand what is Ishvara and the laws by which it structures the Dharma field, and the way I need to somehow harmonize with these laws. So, and then I start discriminating such a Dharma from a Dharma. And then only then I developed the subtlety of mind, the intellect, the purity, refinement of intellect to be able to do my Satyamitya Viveka, because, it requires a very subtle intellect, as we know. So, do you agree about that, you two? But anyhow, as we know, Drsya Viveka, this text does not touch Ishvara and does not touch this relationship Jiva Ishvara. It's all about the Jiva and the way he's mixed up with the projection, but never bring into the scene Ishvara and the relationship Jiva Ishvara. It assumes that the students are qualified, have gone through the teachings about Ishvara, and therefore Drsya is here just to try to resolve this problem, this confusion between Satya and Mitya, making it into the language of the absolute seer, the absolute illuminator, the absolute experience, and the other aspects of the body-mind construct that makes us humans and makes us these agents that experience this crazy world, I would say, nowadays. Okay. Where am I? From the verse 21st on, the author goes to the next stop, which is how to internalize this teaching, how to make my life and my knowledge the same, how to experience the fruits of this knowledge. Otherwise, it remains only in study, contemplation, and more academic, theoric knowledge, understand, or purely intellectual understand. So we need to somehow transform these teachings, into the experience of one's true nature, which transforms or changes the way we experience the world and our body-mind complex as well. Okay, so there is a common criticism or complaints among many students that say, okay, so I'm already several months and I have been studying the Gita and this and that, and I haven't seen any transformation. I'm still overreacting, I'm still suffering, and so on. And some people even say, no, that's nothing. I'm 20 years doing Vedanta, and I haven't yet. And then some people are going to, of course, say, of course, you are not going to be transformed because it's a philosophy. It's all intellectual, so it's all mental. No? So, and then the question is how to convert this intellectual knowledge, informative knowledge, so into direct knowledge, as we call in Vedanta, paroksha jnana, direct knowledge. So how are we going to do that? So, and then we say we need to meditate, okay? We go to the extent, Vedanta goes to the extent of presenting Vipassana yoga, not only as a means to focus the mind, to bring it to one-pointedness, and to expand the mind and to focus the mind, which is the main purpose of Vipassana yoga. But Vedanta presents meditation from another angle as the ability to stay put, once this one-pointedness was established, stay put on the teachings without distraction, contemplating, had that flow of thoughts, all made by the teachings, and you keep contemplating the silence of one's meditation room. So this is the concept of Vedanta meditation, and we know that even in the Gita, we're going to see a chapter on Vipassana yoga. Not quite this way, but here and there it points to the fact that Vedanta meditation means nididhyāsanam, which is contemplation. It's not about no mind, but it is mind, mind, a pure mind, a wise mind, thinking and viewing the world from the standpoint, from the vision, from the perspective of the declarations or revelations of the Upanishad. So people complain, oh, my mind is incapable of implement the solution. I know this is the remedy, but I take the remedy, but somehow the remedy does not work. There is an eternal gap between my intellectual, mental knowledge and my emotional knowledge. So I'm putting in my words, it's emotional knowledge and intellectual knowledge. So one of the ways that Swami Ji presents this is also from saying that this intellectual knowledge has to somehow transform your mind, okay? What it means that intellectual understood everything, but it's still on my emotional center where it's the gate, it's the door, the window by which I contact the Namarupas. There is still, turbulence or disturbance every time I meet things that I wish I wouldn't, or even when I meet things that I highly appreciate, sometimes there is disturbance as well. So how I'm going to get this knowledge, which must be got in the intellectual level, and then let it spread, in the mind, in the mind of the individual, the Atma of the Jiva, in a way that its emotional center is also purified by the same knowledge. So it's like intellectual knowledge and emotional knowledge. Intellectual self-knowledge and emotional self-knowledge is another way to see this situation, So I need to have my intellect and my emotional center aligned so that when I respond to the adversities of the field, I respond in harmony with my intellect. Otherwise, I'm divided. I feel like a schizophrenic, okay? So I know this, but look how I live my life. I used to suffer from that problem. I would say, oh my God, I'm crazy, I was living in the United States. I was going through so many of these Neo-Advaita gurus, including Gangaji, and sometimes I used to share, I say, I don't know why I fall for this. I know all of this, and I experience in my day, in my meditations or in my retreats. But then when I start living in the world, I used to say, I betray my knowledge, which was a funny way I had to say, I betray this knowledge, okay? And I feel schizophrenic, divided from what I know and what I am in my day-to-day interaction with the field, So this gap, it remains there until this emotional center, our emotional mind, emotional knowledge is properly integrated. By lack of the experience, so he used this word experience. There is intellectual knowledge, but there is no corresponding experience. So what is the experience here? So I want to experience the world as Brahman. I want to, to discriminate or to leave aside the Namarupas and see the beauty of Brahman in the world rather than see the Namarupas that are going to affect my mind according to my vasanas. So this is the experience that we are looking for, because we want to experience what? The fruits of self-knowledge with equanimity, right? So our self-knowledge is not an experience. No, it's knowledge. But then it's going to change your experience in respect to the world to the extent that you are not going to be all the time disturbed by your likes and dislikes, because you're going to see that everything is Satchitananda, everything is you fundamentally, it's the self. So this is the experience that Swamiji means here. My intellectual self-knowledge does not correspond to my experience of self-knowledge. By lack of the experience by lack of the experience is usually meant the continuation of emotional problems. Of course, it's a continuation of samsara. And this is something very disturbing when you know what you know, but still one suffers, you understand? Because one feels helpless, like, say, oh my God, and now? I mean, I have done everything. I have understood. Okay, I'm clear about this knowledge, but yet, so now, I mean, how I'm going to be transformed by this knowledge? And that's the moment that sometimes, somehow, we need to trust in the Lord. In my case, as I have shared with you guys a few times, I had to give up in the end and say, okay, Lord, it's all up to you now, I know I cannot make it happen. So, and then when I least expect, so something changed. Some people attribute that to the non-experience of the self, Brahman, and say that there is only knowledge, but there is no experience in Vedanta, or you cannot experience Brahman. Therefore, this teaching is a philosophy, because I want my experience to be transformed. I want my experience in regards to myself and the world to be transformed. And we are there for that purpose. We want to enjoy creation rather than suffer the creation, right? So I want to have an experience that is a positive one. But if it's not there, we think that it's all intellectual. However, the teaching is that there is no such a thing as experience of Brahman, because Brahman is not the object, it's the ultimate subject. So we have seen many of these analogies and examples, the light permeating the objects and reflecting the objects is one of them. So the light is discounted, but the objects are not experienced without the light. So likewise, Brahman or consciousness or Satchitananda is always experienced every time we experience any and all objects, but because it's the light of conscious existence. So we don't have a problem, in fact, of lack of self-experience, because we experience the self all the time, the same way we experience light all the time we see something. So Brahman realization, or where am I? In fact, the problem is not a lot. Brahman realization, samadhi, or mystic experience. So he extended here that, in fact, the problem is not a lack of Brahman experience. We experience Brahman at all times. It's not a question of realizing Brahman, because as Ramana Maharaj used to say, tell me a moment that the self is not realized. You remember that, Lynn? No, the people would say, oh, Bhagwan, I want to experience, I want to realize Brahman, I realize the self. And you say, what? Tell me a moment that the self is not realized. Because the self is realized and it's all the time shining as the one looking for the self in that case. So the problem is not lack of experience of the self or realization of the self. Is not a question of gaining samadhi, which is a mental state, or much less a question of having a mystic experience. The problem is that the knowledge gained has not yet been fully internalized, fully internalized. And then what happens with this internalization of the knowledge? It's going to give conviction. It's going to give certainty. Why? Because if we have the knowledge and we say, my knowledge is clear, and then we say, but is it firm? Well, sometimes, no, I forget completely. Okay, there are two things. One is clear, and one is have to be firm, hard and fast, and immediately and firm and always available, and clear. It needs to be clear. So, why I'm saying with this? Where am I here? So samadhi is not about a experience. It needs the Okay, this knowledge has to be internalized. It was not yet internalized. And how do I know that? It's because emotionally, every time I deal with adversities, I still feel much affected to the extent that I remember that I am free and independent from any and all experience, okay? So this internalization have to make this knowledge not only clear, but firmly available to neutralize this beginningless ignorance. So we get it clear and then we digest, we internalize until it's going to offset this beginningless ignorance that makes us again and again, forget that we are not attached and we are not affected by any experience. You understand? So this is the process. This internalization is important. I mean, it is not more than important. It's essential. It is similar to coffee with sugar. So when we add sugar to the tea or the chai or the coffee, it's not going to have its desired effect unless we stir that. Yeah? So nididhyāsanam is, or internalization, is stirring the sugar so that it can, pervade the entire beverage. Yeah? Internalization of the knowledge through alert living is also much necessary. So I have an experience here in Brazil that it may be, some of it may be my fault as well, because I never really stimulate them to do upasana, yoga, do meditation, sitting quietly. So if you're not prepared to you are not really qualified enough, it's very difficult to internalize these teachings, unless you do these Vedantic meditations and find your space to only think about, away from all other activities, because we say knowledge is everything. You can live your life, you just hold on to your knowledge. But, if the knowledge was not internalized after several years, and then chances are that you need to do this Vedantic meditation as well to help it. So through alert living is as important as through deep meditation. We talk about inwards, internally, in the heart, in the silence of my meditation room, and externally as what? Alert, living, living, alert, and with the mind dwelling into the teachings, and then you can also do your meditation or your process of internalization of the teachings, practicing by applying it through alert living. So this is all of these are called nididhyāsanam. The nididhyāsanam has several shapes and forms. This internalization is done by dwelling on the teachings as often as possible, and in the process, the word Atma or Brahman must be replaced by the word I. So in the beginning, it may feel a little bit strange, may feel a little bit of arrogant to say, I, am Brahman, I am limitless, free Brahman, So, but that's not the angle here. No, we are just, when we say I, we refer to all eyes, to all beings. Every individual that has this thought, I am, is Brahman. It's just not aware of the fact, okay? So when we say, I am Brahman, it's not something like coming from vanity, unless it's coming from vanity. Some people may trip, and they come from that angle. But the process here, the sadhana here, is to replace the idea that Brahman is out there, or consciousness is out there, or existence is out there, and I am here. Because unless I collapse this duality, I'm going to still be, trying to reach Brahman or gain Brahman or realizing Brahman, not knowing that I am Brahman. The only way is to replace Atma or Brahman for I myself, okay, without any arrogance or vanity about that. If I do not do that, I remain in duality. And I will always say, yes, Brahman is all free, independent, limitless, but I am the miserable jiva. No? It boils down to that, because I see Brahman and I appreciate Brahman. I love Brahman. I want to merge with Brahman. I want to become Brahman, but I will forever remain miserable because I am seeing Brahman in duality. But Brahman is not an object in duality. Brahman is the nature of this dualistic manifestation. So this process of dwelling on the knowledge can be done in several ways. And this is interesting. Repeated Shravana is one method. In Shravana, the word Atma or Brahman should be replaced by I. So when we listen to the teachings, with the help of a teacher, and then when we look into the scriptures and then we study the scriptures, and we are doing Shravana, or we're listening to the videos and we're watching the videos, the audios, and so on. So we are doing a kind of Shravana. And Shravana is very potent. I often say that there is no clear-cut line between Shravana and Manana. Because you cannot listen to these teachings without unavoidably staying there, reflecting and contemplating on what you are listening. It goes together, you understand? Of course, later on, you can take time because you took some notes and then I say, this passage is not really clear. Let me contemplate on this. And more often than not, the confusion or the doubt clears. Otherwise, we can always go and check with our teachers, and then we clear those misunderstandings or confusions. So there is no clear-cut line between Shravana and Manana. Therefore, repeated Shravana is a great method. And some people, they don't understand that. Some people, Bhagavad Gita, I'm teaching the Gita in Portuguese language here, and a lot of people jumped out because they have done the Gita over almost 1 year with me many years ago, and they find that they are already advanced students. They want something new. So I'm running out of stock because I go crazy looking for these texts and translating them to Portuguese language to present them with something new. But they believe that everything they watch, they learn, they hear, they listen to this teaching, and then it's over. No, I'm done with this. This one I did 3 years ago. But so now I'm here going through the Manduki Upanishad because in September I'm going to do a seminar on Manduki because people say, no, we want new materials because the rest we already know. But they know, but they don't know because it's not really internalized properly. You understand? So Shravana is very powerful, and we can be repeating those teachings because actually Vedanta, you guys know very well, it's very simple. The teachings are simple. The teachings are the same. The problem is that how to convert those teachings into facts, and doubtless facts. So that's why we keep talking about the same things, and I try to inspire my students to see the truth and not doubting the truth, okay, and claiming the fact that we are more than the body-mind complex. We are is the spirit, we are this consciousness, and we are free and limitless as consciousness. So we do Shravana. It's a wonderful method. It's not much different from Manana. Manana is the meditation we are talking about. We meditate. The moment that we do Manana, again, we cannot really find a clear-cut line between Manana and nididhyāsanam because we need to contemplate to see where still I am resisting and fighting, not claiming. And then I'm contemplating, and that is already an application of this knowledge. You understand? It's already the assimilation of this knowledge. So we structure that as Shravana, Mana, and Nididhyāsa, so to keep it simple for the people, the beginners, the people coming to Vedanta. But actually, it is one process in which we have to bring to conclusions through deep meditation and living a life, okay, dwelling on these teachings in spite of all the nama-rupas we come in contact with. So this entire process is called the Vedantic process that leads to internalization and the experience of my free nature. It has to fructify as a sense of freedom and limitlessness. In all this process of Shravana, Mana, and Nididhyāsanam, the key here present in the Drsya is to replace the idea of Brahman or the self or Atma with the word I. I am the seer, absolute seer, the seer number 3, the Shakti Chaitanya. So I am the seer 3. Among several methods of nididhyāsana, one method is called samādhi-abhyāsa rupa nididhyāsanam. A nididhyāsana in the form of samādhi-abhyāsa. Samādhi-abhyāsa is exclusively giving time for dwelling on the teaching. So it's a redefinition of samadhi. So as Swami Ji often puts, samadhi is a flow, a flux of homogeneous and harmonious thoughts about the self as your very true nature. So this is the samadhi. It's not a trance state, but it is a state in which you are so obsessed with your true nature into converting this knowledge is a total conviction, certainty, doubtless knowledge with respect to what you are, that you stay in that kind of state, understand, which is a form of samadhi. It's a form of savikalpa samadhi, because you, the meditator, do not disappear. And we don't go crazy with nirvikalpa samadhi, because we want savikalpa samadhi. And the Vedantic savikalpa samadhi is you and the thoughts you have in harmony with the scripture knowledge that's going to determine or to establish or encourage you to claim your true nature as Brahman. Okay, samādhi-abhyāsa is exclusively giving some time for dwelling on these teachings. During this time, I should deliberately withdraw from all transactions and deliberately distancing from all the ahankara roles. I should invoke my Atma Svarupam. So when you really want to stay focused on that, you give up transactions. So your ego is not going to come into play. You don't need the ego. You just have your subtle intellect there working for you, deliberating, dwelling on the teachings during a certain period of time. That could be 10 minutes, could be 1 hour, 2 hours, howsoever we enjoy to sit without back pain. Of course, now with back pain is a problem. And how I do that? By invoking my nature as the self, my Brahman nature. I invoke my self nature, my Satchitananda nature again and again. I leave the ego aside, and I just stay there dwelling on the teachings, invoking my Atma Svarupam. There are many nididhyāsanam verses that can help us to do this. Krishna talks about nididhyāsanam in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and very elaborately. In this samādhi-abhyāsa, now he brings a very interesting question. We already touched a little bit. Is this samādhi-abhyāsa compulsory or not compulsory? Okay, so if a person can internalize the teachings without the practice of samadhi or meditation, the Vedantic meditation, and can effect an emotional transformation and not get disturbed by the ups and downs of life, then samādhi-abhyāsa is not really required for that person, okay? Unless the person has a vasana for sitting in silence, because silence is very pleasurable as well. Some people, they have that vasana, that tendency, and they may be self-realized, they are yani, but they like silence more than processing thoughts, you understand? But if it's doing that for internalizing the teachings to make it hard and fast, if it's not doing for that, if it's doing for that, and then once it's realized, it does not need to do it for that purpose anymore. For a person who is incapable of internalizing the teaching, thus the author is prescribing 6 types of samādhi-abhyāsa from the verse 22 to 31, and we will be seeing this in our next class. Let's see, there is a more introduction from Swamiji here. The cause of samsara is, as put by him from this angle, is mixing up the satya with mithya, namarupas with consciousness. And we do that in the internal subject level and the objective level as well. We have a wrong self-image and they have a wrong expectation from the world. This is very nice. So we have a wrong self-image. We often hear about, I have a low self-image. So it's okay. So now I'm going to work some therapy on you, and then you're going to develop the high self-image. Swamiji here used that idea, and says we have a wrong self-image, but they say you have a low self-image, could be said as well. Why? Because no matter how great I feel, I still feel I am the body-mind complex, and this is an insult to your true nature. So we have this low, wrong self-image, and then internally in the heart, in my deep meditation, in my contemplation, the way I experience myself, I have this problem. I see myself as matter and energy, and I miss out on my nature as limitless consciousness. So I have a wrong self-image. And when I interact with the world, I have a wrong view of the world. I have a wrong expectation, as put by Swamiji. A wrong expectation in the sense that I expect the world. First, I see the world to be real, and I expect the world to resolve me, to resolve my problems, to fulfill me, to give me the satisfaction that is the goal of every human being. So these two together is what we call samsara within and samsara in my interaction with the outside world. These two have to be sorted out by Viveka discrimination through proper inquiry in the light of the teachings following the teachings. That inquiry is done by Vedanta, Shravana, and Manana. So Vedanta, Shravana, and Manana is going to lead to correction at the subjective and the objective levels of this confusion between the Namarupas and Brahman, and the conclusion again between my intellect and Brahman. Okay, my intellect got confused with Brahman, and I see Brahman as something other than myself. So internally, in my inner world of deep meditation, I need to clear and correct that aviveka. And when I move into the world, I need to correct that as well. I have to see the world as Brahman and the Namarupas as something that are not really effective in as so far as make me a free and happy individual, which is the goal of everybody. Subjectively, I learned that I am emotionally independent of all objectivity, of all objects. Subjective, I learned that I am emotionally free and independent. And objectively, I learned that the unstable Namarupas, they are not there to fulfill me. They will never give me last satisfaction, security. And furthermore, I see the Namarupas as a mirage or a projection, superimposition, apparent superimposition on the only reality, which is I, the self, the only self. Krishna used two adjectives to describe this. Nitya Tarapasa, I don't know how to spell that, to say that. Always contented at the subject level and independent at the objective level. Very nice. Huh? Subjectively, we want to have our experience to be an experience of peace and contentment. Huh? So in the Gita, Krishna used this. Internally, always content, and externally, always with this sense of freedom and independence from the object, from our experience. Now, more precisely, it's very, because we know that experience itself is an object. So we say that internally we want to be on the subjective level, always contented, okay? And externally, when we interact with the world, we need to see that we are free and independent of the world, which it is a way to say that the subjectivity is not absent when we interact with the objective world, because the contentment, the peace, the satisfaction is a subjective phenomenon. But when we see the world, we see, oh, these are Namarupas, and they are not going to resolve me, and I am free and independent from all experience, all objects of experience, okay? So they don't touch me, and then my mind remains subjectively contented and in shanti. From the following verse, up to the 22 to 31, the author talks about the assimilation of the teaching, because without internalization, the teaching will remain in academic knowledge, and emotional benefits are possible only when the knowledge is fully internalized or properly internalized or extensively internalized. For this, nididhyāsanam is prescribed. The definition of nididhyāsanam is Vedantic meditation, is dwelling upon the teachings intently by providing quality time and not trying to get rid of thoughts or remaining thought-free or producing samadhi. If dwelling on the teaching is meditation, it can be done in any manner that's convenient to us. If dwelling in the teachings is the very definition of meditation in Vedanta, dwelling on the teachings, so it can be done in every possible manner, not only sitting in the silence of our bedroom or the meditation room. So we can dwell on the teachings as a background processing or inquiry, even through our interactions with the world, okay? So it can be done in any manner that is convenient to us. So if we have to do a lot of roles, to exercise several roles in society for different reasons, and then I have to find a way to stay dwelling on the teachings, in spite of whatsoever activity. So we can see and adjust according to our karma and our lifestyle. It can be in the form of repeated listening, which is, you see, he has defined as meditation, Vedantic meditation, as equal to nididhyāsanam, which is dwelling in the teachings. It's not producing a thought free. So dwelling in the teachings, we can dwell in meditation, or some people prefer Shravana. So I did it through Shravana. I got into the teachings, and first thing I did I went into the website of Shine World and I bought nearly everything. I started buying a piece, and then I started buying everything, and I started listening, watching these videos and listening again and again. So that was my meditation, you understand? But somehow I was already a little bit allergic to sitting in meditation, to remember the teachers. I was just want to see the videos and the audios. And then it's the same thing. We are dwelling on the teachings. That's the key here. You understand? Sometimes we need to take time to dwell on the teachings in the total silence, not doing anything else. But when you are there before your computer, and or your TV, and you are watching the teachings, listening to the teachings, so you are not doing anything else. We are dwelling on the teachings. It's a Vedantic meditation. If dwelling on the teachings, meditation, it can be done according to our convenience. It can be in the form of listening directly from a teacher, or it can be done independently in the form of reading, revising our notes, writing to others, discussing the teachings, or teaching the teachings, which is said to be a wonderful sadhana. Physical posture is not important component. It's only incidental, but the mental posture is the primary component. So we cannot do this Vedantic meditation if your mental posture is too rajasic and tamasic, because you let aside the thing of meditating alone. Once the teachings are in your mind, when they are live in your mind, and then you don't need to hook up with the videos and the audios and the book. You just have it in here, and then you keep dwelling the subtlety of your mind. So let alone that sadhana, okay? But even to watch the videos, listen, so our mental environment has to be somewhat sattvic, okay? So it's not a question of the position and the way I sit. It's my mental posture has to be sattvic. Otherwise, it's difficult to even watch the teachings. I remember, sometimes, the mind is too disturbed. It would take some time, but Vedanta, the teachings, knowledge, it somehow it clears the mind very quickly. Have you noticed that? Sometimes we go and then the mind is like Jesus. Then the moment we start listening to the teachings and the video from the teacher, and then the mind is going to develop sattva, and then our posture becomes proper for that. So this mental posture is the primary component. One can do the meditation while on the teaching, even while walking on the beach. But Swamiji did not say while doing a work, in a factory, a work that you do not like to do. That is an extreme thing, but can be done as well, especially if one has understood Karma Yoga and has become a Karma Yogi as well. Sitting meditation, taking care of the physical posture, is okay as well. It's a form of meditation, which is called samādhi-abhyāsa. Sitting meditation, taking care of the physical posture, is also a form of meditation. Vedantic meditation, I talk about Vedantic meditation. Okay, you want to sit. Okay, so then find the best posture for you and sit in meditation and begin dwelling on the teachings. It's a little bit more difficult to dwell on the teaching because the teaching has to be alive and shine in your mind, present, you understand? So, and people tend to more easily fall into rajas, dispersions, mental dispersions, or tamas, a tendency to fall asleep as well when you are alone trying to contemplate on these alive teachings that's there. So sitting meditation is a form of meditation. It is in this meditation, a person sits in a particular posture, withdraws the sense organs, close the eyes, and intensely dwells upon the teaching. So this is okay. But again, using our modern technology, so in the absence of a teacher, before our eyes, we have the videos, we have the audios, we can sit You know, laying down is not good. But we can even close our eyes or keep it open. But, you know, intently, I dwell on the teachings that's coming through that exposition. Whatever be the form of meditation, dwelling on the teachings, one factor is very important, which makes meditation different from Shravanam. That sounds interesting, huh? Now he's making a subtle distinction between meditation and Shravanam. Okay. Whenever the word Brahman or Atma and their descriptions come in Shravana, we always think of Brahman and Atma as some external entity which we have directly come across in meditation or some other epiphanies or something. This is objectification, orientation. Any amount of dwelling on the teaching with this orientation will not bless the student completely. Every time the word Brahman and Atma comes into play, it has to be replaced by the word I with consistency and with full conviction. So by doing that, we're going to develop this firm conviction, you know, and in the beginning, if it sounds a little bit like faking, as the proverb says, fake it until you make it, without any sense of inadequacy about that, okay? So we're gonna stop here. And let me make a big sign here. Okay, we stop here. I have to still cook my lunch here. And I read, at least I defined the menu. The worst possible thing is when it's time to eat, and I go there and I haven't defined and then we go for sandwich, so quick fix like that. Anything from you guys? Our G3 class?
Very nice. Thank you, Arlindo. It's very good to listen to these teachings about nididhyāsana.
Yeah.
Very practical and yeah.
Very good.
Very applicable.
I'm glad that you are calling meditation nididhyāsana. That's good. Yeah. Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my good friends. Love you. We meet again this coming Monday. Namaste.
At our new time.
Huh?
At our new time.
New time. Thank you for reminding me. I'm gonna write it in the email and our WhatsApp. So new time. Thank you. Same time as today.
Thank
you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Arlindo.
Thank you, dear.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye now.